Well, we are going to try to get the panels put on this box. I've got some on the other side. We'll show you that here in a minute. And then we're going to run down through this side here as well. And then we can do the tailgate. Now, I ended up getting a couple of comments here lately stating that I do too much talking in the videos and I need to do more videoing / more working. Now, I get a kick out of the comment section. Every once in a while, I will get on a comment and I will refer to that comment in a video. I am in no way making fun of anybody or anything like that, and I am not offended by any comment. So don't worry about me thinking that I'm taking your comment the wrong way or anything like that. Nothing offends me. You know, I made a point the other day that, you know, I need to talk less with my hands. I was just having fun with that. And that's why I did the last video the way I did with no talking in it. I figured I'd have a little fun with it, and it gave me a little content, you know, or a little different way to do a video. So if you didn't watch the last video, I ended up welding 5 of these panels on this rub rail on this left-hand side of the body, and I've got 2, 4, I got 6 left, so I'm not quite half done with this one side here. Now, we're gonna go over and look at that box on the Freightliner next door, because that one is designed basically the same as this box here. But before we do that, just want to talk about these plasma cutters for a brief moment. Some of you have been asking about this titanium plasma cutter that I bought from Harbor Freight a year ago. It is a titanium plasma 45, and it basically has the same cutting capacity as what the PowerMax Hypertherm 800 that I have. This plasma cutter here I have had for probably 25 years now, and last year I had a problem. I took it to Han to get it fixed. The particular size that I wanted, I was going to buy a new one, didn't really want to spend the money. If I recall, they didn't have it in stock, or it was going to take a couple of days, and I was trying to finish up a job that I was doing on one of my uncle's trucks. So I ended up picking up this titanium plasma cutter from Harbor Freight. I forget right at the moment what I paid for this. It works good. It is a nice backup unit, meaning if you're doing a lot of work with a plasma cutter, it's probably not the unit to have to be using on a constant basis, but I'm just using it as a backup machine. I did use it in the last video, and I'm going to use it again in this video. I'll use both at the same time. And what I'm doing is I cut, it's a 6-inch strip, 6-inch wide strip to put in as that panel, and then I have to cut the angled ends off to fit in. And being that I want every one of them tight, not every distance, not the distance between every post is not exactly the same amount, so I have to cut each one individually, and you'll see I'll use both of them. I don't have a preference over either one. I will use this one most of the time just because the parts, well, they don't make this model anymore, but you know, the parts, you can get most of the parts for this one. This one here, no one's going to be able to work on it. The warranty is off of it now. Maybe I did buy the extended warranty, but the way the warranties work, they're kind of goofy at Harbor Freight. You have to, once you get the unit replaced one time on the warranty, you have to pay into the warranty again to have it covered for the duration of whatever's left on the warranty. It's kind of goofy, but it is what it is. So another question I get from time to time when I'm using the torch, people will ask, you know, why aren't you using the plasma cutter you know, instead of the torch? Well, for cutting a bearing or getting into a tight area or doing little cuts that are, you know, you're on and off the torch and you got to do a little bit of heating and whatever, it's easier to just use the oxy acetylene torch or the propane oxygen. To get into different areas, the plasma cutter is just not going to do it for you. The plasma cutter, I mainly use it just to cut sheet metal. I will cut rectangular tubing with it, you know, if it's real big and I can't get it in the saw. So why don't we go over and look at this box that's on this Freightliner here. This truck, we are going to take the transmission out of it. We have something wrong with it. This box I built in March of 2012. Same design. Got the panel here on top of the rub rail. And this box is in pretty good shape for how old it is. This box is 24 foot long and it has 7 foot high sides on it. Same width as the other one. The other box next door is 22 foot long with 6 foot sides. And I started welding this panel on and building these boxes with this design in 2000, I believe it was 2008. Truck 8, that box was built in 08, and that has this design. Just slightly before that, maybe 2006, I started building them with this post here. It might have been the year before that, I'm not quite sure, but when I first started building these boxes using this style post, I didn't have the panel in here. My uncle has one of them boxes that doesn't have that panel. It's just got an open sill there. So let's go ahead and start cutting some panels for that box next door, and we'll try to get down through the side of that other box, both sides that is, and then I can start building the tailgate. So the first cut that we're going to make right here at the moment, we're going to use the Hypertherm. You've seen me use this before, maybe some of you haven't seen me use the plasma cutter. Now we're going to cut an angle. I've got these 6-inch strips already cut. I've got several of them laying in the back of the box. We're going to cut our angle, and then I need to round the corners, top and bottom, so that it can fit in above and to the side of the welds that are coming down on the posts and the floor, whatever. So I just use something for a straight edge, and I offset the straight edge about a ½ inch from where I cut, because that's about the distance from the side of the torch to where the torch is cutting from. So I'm just going to use this square for a straight edge. Side of the table here a little farther. We'll round off our corners. What we'll do, I've just got this flat chisel here, and I use this chisel just to knock off the slag. one here ready to go. Now these 6-inch strips, in yesterday's video I cut with, well, I cut the first couple of them with this Milwaukee cordless 18-volt metal cutting saw. I cut a couple of them with that, and I cut a couple of them with the titanium plasma cutter, and then I did some cutting with the Hypertherm. Which plasma cutter would I prefer? I prefer the Hypertherm. The gun fits the hand better. It seems to be smoother cutting just because the gun fits the hand a little better. And I've used it for 25 years. This one is a lighter handle. However, it is effective. And maybe if I bought these two units at the same time, maybe I would have a different opinion of the torch that's on this titanium. So we'll do a couple more cuts here, and then we'll use the titanium one as well here. All right, so we have the 3 panels placed on the side of the body that I cut with the Hypertherm plasma cutter. They're just sitting there. I do not have them welded into place yet. We're going to cut these back 3 with the titanium plasma cutter to just kind of give you an idea how this works. We did use it in the last video, but we're going to go ahead and use it in this one. Now this is a 220 volt or 240 volt unit, and it also has this adapter cord where you can run it on 120 volt power outlet. So we're going to do a few cuts on 240, and then we'll do a couple of cuts on 120. This material is 11 gauge, so it should cut fine on 120 volts. Just going to cut a little slower is all. So I've got this piece marked out. We'll cut this at 240, and then I'll let you know when we switch the power on it. ended up cutting these back 3 panels with the titanium plasma cutter powered at 240 volts. Now we're going to cut 3 for the other side, powered off of this adapter here that comes with the plasma cutter, and we'll be supplying it with 120 volts of power. Now we have our adapter plugged into the 220 volt end of the plasma cutter, and that is plugged into a 120 volt cord that's plugged into the outlet over there. Now you just have to switch the power on the front of the unit here. You have to switch it to 120 volt power from 240, and then the actual power switch is on the back of the unit. So we'll go ahead and power that up. I've got this piece marked out. This will be the first panel that I'm putting on the front of the right hand side there. So it knocked itself down from 45 amps down to 20 amps. So we'll see how this cuts. It's been a year since I've used this plasma cutter, and when I did do the video on this plasma cutter when I bought it, I cut various thicknesses of material on both 240 and 120. So let's go ahead and get started here, and we'll cut 3 panels on 120 volt power. This will be our first cut here. We'll get our fence lined up. Make sure we don't drop anything on our lead. Things lined up. Bang. Okay, there's the first cut. Not bad. A lot slower. We'll check this flag off. Now we cut our corners off too. We're just cutting these corners off so that we can set it on top of the welds that are already there. All right, so the last cut I made, not this one, but the last panel I made, it kicked off a couple of times and I thought I was going too slow with the torch. However, this time it kicked off a couple of times. The cut is not all that great. So we're gonna go ahead and change the consumables. I have taken the cup off the end, and then there's just a nozzle and a tip. I forget what the exact terminology of this stuff is. But this is the old tip and nozzle. We're gonna go ahead and replace that and see if that takes care of the kicking off issue that we're having with it here. So we'll go ahead and put you guys there. Which way does this go? Yeah, it goes like that. That goes like this. And then we just screw the end on. And we'll power back up and see if that cuts any better. All right, so we cut that area right there with the new nozzle, the new consumables. So you can see a difference in the cut pattern there. And then of course we cut this whole cut here with the new consumables. Now, I think this machine struggles a little bit on 120 volt. It works, it's functional, but you're better off cutting on 240. It has to dial the machine down enough to where it doesn't run all that great. However, it works. For those of you that are looking for a unit, this is an acceptable plasma cutter. If I wasn't building these silage boxes, I wouldn't require an expensive plasma cutter, and that one would suit me fine. So we're gonna keep at it here, and we'll join up with you a little later after we get these panels welded in. But I know we talked about that plasma cutter a year ago, and it is what it is. But it is a nice unit. I don't remember what I paid for it. $800-900 bucks, something like that. They're like 3,000 or something now, I think. But will that unit there last 25 years like that one? I don't think so. But let's keep at it here, and we will join up with you in a little while here. Well, I almost forgot to turn the camera on here. We have the push-out bucket in the shop here, and it didn't come with the rubber gasket that goes on the sides, and we were losing a little bit of grain out this one left-hand side. We'd lose a couple of handfuls each bucket load. So we ended up getting a gasket kit from them, and I have this right-hand side left. There's the longer strip that goes on the bottom section of the bucket, and then they have little 2-bolt sections that work up through the rest of the side of the bucket there. You can kind of see this side here, and they do it in little sections just because this back plate is curved a little bit. So we'll go ahead and get that on there, and then we can roll this bucket out the door. As you can see, this side here fits pretty tight. However, that side over there, just from the warpage from welding, there's a little bit of a gap there. On that back side, now I know some of you had asked, you know, can you see the back of this bucket? And you can see the back of the bucket, so you can see that plate rolling back and forth. And we of course got it rolled forward just so that we can put them gaskets on there a little easier. So I'm going to put some anti-seize in these holes, because this is kind of a wear item, and they are slotted holes, so you can move these little rubber segmented pieces out as they wear, and then obviously you need to replace them once they get wore down to the point where they are not functional anymore. So we'll go ahead and get that done. Well, we have most of the welding done on the outside of the box and on the inside. Sarah's just finishing up a few things on the inside of the box here. And then once we can pull that welder out, we can go ahead and start with the tailgate. So she's welding up some seams here. She's got this seam to finish welding, and then she's got most of the front already done here. She's got a little bit left there. The posts are done, and then we've got to put the skirt panels, I call them skirt panels, the angled panel down in the front. So like I said, she's got a little bit left on the vertical weld here. Got just a little bit down in there. She's got to get a few more tacks in there so that it doesn't pull on her. And in the last part of the video here, I was doing some work with the plasma cutters there, and I haven't used that little plasma cutter since I don't know when. And I know I've been getting some comments about you know, we should do a welder tour. And we'll have to do that sometime here. For most of you already know, we have all Lincoln welders, and the first MIG welder I bought was a 255. We just bought this one here. This is a 260. That one there is a 350. We've got a 255, and Jared has a 256. But years ago, I know you're going to be asking, you know, why do you run the Lincoln welders? And years ago, I didn't have a preference either way. But I asked the salesman, I said, you know, what's better, the Miller or the Lincoln? And they said, well, the Miller welder is more user-friendly. He said you can have anybody weld with the Miller welder. They can just go right in, dial it up, and go. So it's a little easier to use the Miller welders, but these Lincoln welders, they're set more for the professional welders. So that's why we have the Lincolns, right, Jared? Jared's laughing, snickering over here. But all kidding aside, that's just a preference that we have. I've had good luck with them. You like your Lincoln, don't you? Yeah. So, well, we've got just a little bit left here. And we'll get rolling into building the tailgate. So we're just about done with this bucket here. I've got the sealing strip on this right hand side. I've just got to tighten it up, and it was a little bit of a booger. They said, you know, simple job, but it took me over an hour to put this on. I had to burn the paint out of the holes. There's 3/8 threaded tapped holes in the panels, and we had to burn the paint out with a torch. I tried just running a tap down in them. I broke a tap off in it, and that wasn't too fun, but that'll seal up nice. And I talked to a guy the other day. I don't know what kind of bucket he has, but he says them strips last for about 2 years. And rubber strips, yeah. So, well, alrighty, we'll hook this up to the loader, try it a couple of times, and get it out of here. Well, as you can see, the rubber is a little tight here. That floor panel, that's so tight that that won't drop down. So we're gonna have to loosen these bolts up. I put the rubber on when the panel was out here, just so that, you know, when it was fully pushed out, it's just so that it would go on easier. But you can see we're real tight right there at the top. So we need to loosen these bolts up, let that rubber kind of walk out of the way, and then we'll go ahead and tighten the bolts up, and I think we'll have our adjustment about where we need it. I probably should have left everything loose and ran it a couple of times, but I didn't want to end up pulling the bolts out. So let's go ahead and try adjusting this. Alright, we've got everything loose, and we got that bottom panel that ended up dropping on its own here after I kicked it. So Garrett's going to go ahead and run it a few times, and the rubber will kind of push out of the way, and then we can tighten it all back up again. That's all it needed to have done. Everything just needed to be loosened up. That was so tight that that bottom panel there stayed stuck up in the air. Well, we ended up getting the bucket rolled out of here. Earlier, 8110 came in here. That's got a bad injection pump. So one of the guys at Kaz took the injection pump out of that, and they ended up ordering a reman for it. Sarah's working on getting the floor welded down here. She's got this seam done. She has a seam right here, the one she's working on. And there's another one underneath the welder. She's got that front panel in. Got a couple more welds to do on that. She's just kind of letting that cool down. And we'll run along next door here. Jared's getting ready to put the rear main seal in that Freightliner. We did end up pulling the transmission out of it, and he's getting ready to throw a new clutch in it. This is the clutch that came out. The clutch has a couple of the riveting pads here that are ready to break away. I think this, I forget which one it was. This is a 4-paddle clutch here, but we've never done a clutch on it. And what they're thinking happened to the transmission, they think one of the actuators in the transmission locked it between high and low. And then after it's sitting all this time, it was able to unlock itself, something to that effect. It's a Super 10 transmission. We want to put an 8LL or a 13. I guess Jared ordered a 13 speed for it. It's a goofy shifting transmission. Nobody wants the core, so if that tells you anything. So what he's doing now is he's putting the rear main seal in, just because, now pull that off in there for a second. We have a tool for, the larger C15 engine and the 3406E cat, but it won't work on this engine. So Jared made this plate up. Show him that plate. I think we showed it in the last video, and then he's got it painted. It's just a piece of 3/16 plate with 4 holes in it. You only need 2 of them. And he's got part of the seal sitting on the end of the crank. So go ahead and bolt that plate you got made. He's got to bolt that up to the end of the crank, and then what he's going to do is he's going to tighten the bolts in evenly to push the seal in the rest of the way there. So he's just gonna carefully tighten this one and the other one. It's just gonna work back and forth until that seal pushes its way in there. About 3 out of 10 seals that you put in with a hammer will actually work. The tool is best, but basically the tool works the same way. And that's going to successfully get that in there. We'll go ahead and leave him alone here, and I'll crawl my way out from underneath this old girl. So we have this tool here is for putting the rear main seal in, like the C15 or the 3406E, and it basically works the same way. Pull this apart here. So what you would do is you would take this part of the tool, you would fasten that to the end of the crank, and that would push in the inner part of the seal. And then once you've got that, actually it's not going to push any part of the seal, and the seal's going to ride on the outside of this ring here. And then depending on what engine you have, it's going to depend on what cup that you use. This one here was the one that we used on the 3406E. So you've got this on the crank like that. Your seal's going to fit inside this cup here. Then you're just going to mate the two together. And then there's this large nut here that you spin on to the outside. And then what that does is it evenly pushes the seal into the back of the engine. They gave, I forget what engine this other adapter's for, but there's 2 different engine series that this will, of course, work on. And I have to get it knocked apart here. Push it back together. And it will, the beauty with this tool here is it will not over install the seal. So right now this is all the way in, and it is bottomed out. And what I do is I just put these two together like this so that I have everything all in one spot so I don't lose anything here. If I remember right, it was like $400, but we have put seals in before with the block of wood and hammer method, and all it does is it comes back to haunt you, and then you got to pull the transmission out again. So I'm gonna get back welding. All right, while we were jaw jacking over in the other part of the shop, Jared ended up getting the seal in, and I thought I would show you what things look like with this job completed with the seal installed. So he pushed the inner ring that runs around the flywheel. He put that on with the tool, and then he pushed in the rest of the seal. Now what he is getting ready to do is he's going to go ahead and throw the clutch in. Got a new clutch, and they ended up turning the flywheel out to fry, and then he's just going to push this in there with the actual clutch jack. Now I had a comment last week, somebody asked if we ever put the clutch onto the transmission and put everything all in at once. We have never done that. It would be a pain to have somebody on that engine cranking the engine over so that you could get the bolts put in to the clutch. So he's going to pick the flywheel up, bolt that on the onto the back of the engine, and then he'll lift the clutch up with the jack. I probably should give him a hand getting that flywheel on there. Do you have your little stub shaft over here? No. You need it? Yeah. All right, so he's just gonna muscle that up there. And there that is, right there. Need a pry bar. Yeah. Well, we are putting the last of the finishing touches here on the actual box itself, and then we can start building the tailgate. Sarah's welding the last weld on the tie rail. We've got a ladder on the front left corner, and then we went ahead and put a couple of steps inside the, oh, we got to pound this one back. Got a couple of steps in the box as well, and then Sarah's got all of the inside welding done. Didn't put a date on there. Your penmanship is pretty good. You know that? Yeah. Huh? That's pretty good. I put the date of the box on every box. I've been doing that for 20 years now. So that just gives you an idea when this box was built. So what do you think? I don't know. Do the tailgate tomorrow, and then we'll probably waste most of the day doing the tailgate and doing a bunch of cleanup. We've got to run around it with a wire wheel, clean all of the, oh, there's like mill scale and whatever here. You can see that stuff just flakes right off. It's the pickling. Actually, that's not mill scale. That's like a pickling oil or something. And if you don't clean this off after you paint it, you can come over to it and you can wipe this down and all the paint will fall off the actual weld. So we released that video here a little while ago, and can you believe the amount of comments we had on the silent video? Unreal, huh? You like the silent video? I liked it. You don't like hearing my mouth, do you? No, I already hear it enough. Yeah. I think I talked about it earlier. If I didn't talk about it earlier in the video here, I'll talk about it again now. None of the comments, good or bad, bother me. So we just want to get that straight right now, right?
Yep.
Do any of the comments offend you?
I don't really read them.
You don't read the comments?
No.
Well, you should start.
Why would I do that?
I don't know. So why don't we go over and we'll show you what Jared's up to. Jared has the clutch in the Freightliner, and it's going to take us a few days before we get a transmission. So we'll just kind of show you what things look like with the clutch installed. You can see that there is all in there, and then he ended up taking an input shaft out of a transmission to use for a lineup tool, and he's got that stuffed in there still right now. So he's right over on the other side of this truck, and he's working on the 8320. We sent the head out to another machine shop here, and they tested it, and there's nothing wrong with the head. Where's the head anyways, Jared? It's underneath that plastic? Yeah. So the head is underneath the plastic. We're not going to disturb that at all. And what he's leaning towards, he's actually pulling the engine out now. What he's leaning towards is the liners. What are you thinking? Number 6 is sunk? Yeah, number 6. So, it's just one of them things. You've got a small amount of protrusion here, and you need some protrusion so that when you set the head on there, you know, there's not a gap here at the top of the actual piston sleeve. So, what he's going to be able to do, or what has to be done, is he has to run a dial indicator on every sleeve after he pulls. What's the procedure? You pull all the sleeves out, pull the O-rings off, and then check how much they protrude. They have to protrude between 3 and 5 thousandths or something like that. Is that what the measurement was? So there's a shim that has to go underneath there, underneath the liner, and that's where we're leaning now. So he's got to pull this out of there, and yeah. So what do you think? We got another one of Sister's games to go to tonight, don't we? So I guess that's gonna do it. So we'll catch you at the next one, right? Well, take it easy, folks. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope I didn't make anybody mad with that last video, but it was just a it was just kind of we were kind of trolling the few trolls that we had last week. So from time to time we will do that, but yeah. So take it easy, folks. We'll catch you at the next one.